Hey there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, brother. What's happening?
How are you,
I'm
brother?
I'm good. I'm good. Um, Doing well. It's nice. It's late here. It's later than it is where you are. So I don't know if that means you're not drinking. I'm enjoying a beverage
Oh,
at
yes.
the end of the day.
Oh, yes.
Cheers
And
to that.
next week, this time next week, I'll be in your time zone.
That's right.
I will have just
Exciting.
arrived. I'm going to arrive on Wednesday and set up my computer and do the show with you.
We're not going to miss a beat.
We're not going to miss a bit, but we don't know what movie we're doing. We didn't talk. Oh, wait.
No,
Let's have it. Let's have it.
And while we're at it, let's also toast because it's a special day.
There's another brother.
There is another brother, a very important brother, who
Yeah.
will be joining us soon.
So we're changing the name of the show.
To what's the name? What's the new name? You were the captain.
The brothers talk about food and movies.
Okay, there you
Well,
go.
no, the brothers talk about movies.
We're not going to eat food anymore.
We're gonna eat food, but we're gonna rebrand. We're gonna rebrand to just movies. I think the Arkin family is known more for movies than food.
Okay.
We don't have any restaurants
No, but
yet.
okay. Well, as long as I can still snack and we can still chat about it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the good news is it's Adam's birthday.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Happy birthday to Adam.
Yeah.
The other brother.
Who will be joining us soon.
Very soon. Not this show, but very soon.
We've got a great picture of the three of us. Should we show that?
Yeah, let's bring that up.
What is happening here?
This says it all. Or I mean, it says so many things. It's hard to figure out what it's saying. It's a lot of things.
But we're all laughing and having fun.
Yeah,
which is
pretty typical situation.
Which is what really matters.
Yeah.
So I want to mention to all of the people watching right now that you are free to join in on the chat, to ask questions, to make snarky comments. Tell us where you're from. Let us know where you're watching from, who the heck you are. And you can ask questions and make comments and be silly along with us as we talk about Nighthawks.
This is going to be a very heavy discussion.
Yeah.
They usually are. For those of you who are new to this and you are tuning in, we're going to talk about a movie called Nighthawks for the next hour or so.
Yeah.
There is a lot to say about this one. And I don't know whether we should tell the stats first. Well, just set it up, I guess, like what the basics are, and then play the trailer, maybe.
Yeah, you go right ahead.
Trailer says a lot. I mean, this is a cop thriller, I would say. It's safe to say.
Ostensibly.
With some international espionage thrown in for good measure.
Yeah.
It's a early 80s, very typical 80s kind of styled movie, starring Sylvester Stallone, Billy Dee Williams, and at this time introducing Rutger Hauer in his first role in an American film.
Yes.
It is a New York set, action-packed, very very New York typecasty kind of thing with a lot of foul language and chasing.
Yeah, it's getting dark. I have to turn on a light because I realized I'm starting to disappear.
You look fine.
I do? Oh, okay.
I don't see any. I mean,
If I start to be in the dark, let me know.
You look actually very pleasantly lit right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's the film. This movie has a reputation, and I think that's why.
What is the reputation?
as quite something to see. as a classic example of kind of renegade, early 80s New York gritty filmmaking of a grindhouse kind of nature.
Yeah. This movie makes Garth Marenghi look like good, serious filmmaking.
Wow, you're coming in strong, hot and heavy. My quote was what was my quote? I had it written down. It was a good one. You'll have to just believe me.
It's like a bad episode of Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's safe to say more stuff happens on a Matlock episode. I mean, it really is not packed with stuff, this movie.
No.
But it's
packed with stuff.
It's packed with amazing things.
Amazing. There's a lot of amazing.
And we can't really do more than, I think we have to play the trailer to set the tone. All right. The minute anyone sees this trailer, they're going to know what's happening.
Let's jump right in to the trailer here. Let me pull it up, and here we go. I haven't seen the trailer yet, so I'm excited and enjoy.
Good reason to be.
You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Is this trip business or pleasure?
Pleasure, I hope.
Welcome to the United States.
Hamer Reinhardt, sometimes called Wolfgar. Born Frankfurt, Germany, 1946. Educated Paris and Patrice Lumumba University, Moscow. Currently self-employed. Occupation, international terrorist.
You are to be indoctrinated counter-terrorist techniques.
Deke da Silva, age 35. Born and raised New York City. Honorable discharge, U.S. Army, 1972. 52 registered kills. Occupation, cop. One man can bring the world to its knees. And only one man can stop him. Universal Pictures presents Sylvester Stallone in Nighthawks, coming in April.
Wow.
This film, I think this film was directed by a slap bass, and it literally stars a pair of aviator sunglasses. Like, that's the star. Those are the stars of the film.
It was. I could not believe what I was watching.
You'd never seen Nighthawks before. You're actually telling me you'd never seen it.
I had never seen Nighthawks.
I don't know really how you missed it.
And I could not believe, like, there were times where we were watching where I thought maybe this movie is too bad even for us and our show.
No, God, no. Okay, well, see, I don't know how to describe this because, again, what would be the fun of only talking about films that everybody already agreed? No, that everybody already agreed were great, classic, or good.
Okay.
I mean,
is that what we're doing here? We're going to convince people that this is a great classic movie?
I'm going to make a case that this movie is essential viewing. Whether it's good or not is up to
okay. All right.
I mean, I think that if you like a certain kind of attitude in movies, if you like a kind of grindhouse, kind of movie, and you're into a late night cult kind of vibe on a film, this is one of the great. It's one of the greats.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Did you see? I'm getting the feeling. Then we're going to get deep because we'll talk about this movie. We have a lot to discuss. obviously.
Okay.
But
All
then there's another thing, because we need to frame maybe a little bit about how you like to watch movies, because we've never really, we've seen a lot of movies together, but
Yeah.
we have never, for instance, we didn't go to college together and hang out, staying up
No.
late and watching crappy movies together,
No.
having fun.
No.
I love a movie that is that kind of experience, like a movie that can deliver a great night to as a couple of friends or a group of friends watching it and enjoying the energy of it. There's some movies that are made like that are really boring to watch, and this one is not boring at all. It's so entertaining to me.
Well, but for me, I mean, there are movies that are crappy in a great, like, that I still love. Guilty.
But what is that a crappy movie then?
Why is it a crappy movie?
What makes it a crappy movie, I guess, is the big question.
I think something along the lines of, we're not going to take this too seriously. We're just going to have fun, and it's not going to be a piece of art. It's going to be, like you talk about Grindhouse. So, like, what's the one with Kurt Russell and the car?
Well, that's actually Grindhouse.
Grindhouse is the name of the movie. Yes. Okay.
Death Proof. That's Death Proof.
Death Proof.
But the whole movie is called Grindhouse. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Death Proof. They're purposefully making that kind of movie. But when I watched this, I felt like they were trying to make, I don't think they were trying to make this movie. It seemed to me like they were trying to make a real,
yes,
and fail.
Which is why I love it. The movie that I think is crap. No, hear me. This is really important, I think, because the reason I think a movie can only be crappy if it's clear that the people making it didn't care. And I see a lot of very expensive movies that people spend a lot of money on, are very talked about, that it really does kind of feel like people just didn't really care that much about it.
Right.
And a movie like this, they care. I really think they cared. They were working at the top of their ability. And that ability might not have been so amazing. Okay,
maybe that's what makes me a little. That's what makes me sad.
But that's what makes it so worth it, because it's honest. It's really honest,
Okay.
And some of it plays like a bad cop show. Obviously, some of it's so ridiculously, inadvertently funny. But I truly think that there's the spirit of trying to make a great action cop movie, and it didn't really work.
Yeah.
But
now, when did Serpico come out?
Serpico, I believe, was like 4 or 5 years earlier than this. Serpico was, let me take a look here. Hold on. I should know that. I should be better at this. But I think Serpico was actually quite a bit earlier. It was 73.
Because they seem to really be trying to pick up that vibe for the.
Well, I got some background on that. I don't know if you found out where this came from. This whole thing. Did you? You didn't. You didn't care enough. You had a couple of scotches and you were like, "I hate my brother. I don't want to talk to him."
No. I'm moving. I'm moving tomorrow.
I understand. All right. Well, how can you not love a movie where you stop watching the movie and you're like, how did any of this happen? Like, what's the mystery here? Like, where did the money come from?
Where did the money come from? And also, there are things in it like, I have finally found the bad guy that everybody is searching for, who's threatening the known universe, and I have to apprehend him.
Well, at least he's threatening Roosevelt Island.
Right. So I have to apprehend him, and I have found him in this disc attack. And since I'm seeing him, instead of now surreptitiously walking around and coming up behind him, I will stand on a high platform and just stare at him until he notices me.
Yeah, that's it's amazingly inept undercover work in this film. What's amazing about it, and well, there's a lot of great things. To me, the extraordinary thing was that there's like very little happens. Rutger Hauer comes here. Oh man, the producer said they were aiming for Serpico meets Day of the Jackal.
So I was right in picking up the Serpico vibe.
Well, that's true, Peter. Hello, Peter. What's also true, though, and what happened before all this, was that the studios were trying to look for a reason to make French Connection 3. And they got this idea together. Well, I mean, this movie is like a remake of French Connection. I mean, it really is. It's like a grindhouse. French Connection is kind of grindhouse in itself, but I mean, they pitched it to Gene Hackman, and Hackman said, no, absolutely not. And then they tabled it for a while, and then they kind of pivoted and decided to take the funds or the work that had gone into making French Connection 3 into Nighthawks. And then they used these other New York movies as a kind of inspiration. But I mean, it's really very, very much a similar film. It's just, instead of drug dealers, it's a terrorist, you know?
Yeah.
So the idea is, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Stallone and Billy Dee Williams play two New York cops, yes, undercover cops, who are going about their cop business. And at the same time, we cut back and forth to Europe, where Rutger Hauer, who looks like a different person because he's got makeup on, is a terrorist, and he blows up a building, and then he has to get his face redone by a plastic surgeon
who works really hard and makes him look almost exactly the same.
Almost exactly the same.
But
yeah.
Can we back up a little bit before we even get to that? So you said Billy Dee Williams and Sylvester Stallone, two New York City cops.
Two New York City cops, yeah.
Top of their game, right?
They're the best. Actually, Billy Dee Williams tells Stallone that he's one of the best, and he needs to keep being one of the best.
Being one of the best at basically a lot of what they're doing is these two cops who are the best that NYPD has to offer are catching street muggers.
Right.
That's what they're doing.
How does this sound inaccurate to you at this, really, if you think about it?
It made me miss New York City before Giuliani got his hands on it. I'll tell you that.
Well, you're coming back. It's coming back around.
Oh, good.
The 70s are here again. So,
good.
Welcome back to New York. Yeah, I mean, there's no accounting for whoever was the technical advisor on this in terms of any kind of international espionage or cop work. I mean, Rutger Hauer gets his face redone. He's a famous international terrorist who's now gone rogue, right? He doesn't work for anybody, but he wants to make a name for himself. So they find out he comes to the States.
Right.
And of course, like always happens, they send the head of Scotland Yard to New York to talk to the police.
And here's the thing, though, is they don't find out he's come to the States. They deduce that he comes to the States based on absolutely no evidence whatsoever.
A good nose on a cop is like very important. They had instinct. They had street smarts and instinct.
Scotland's Yard smarts.
This relates to probably there are some good lines of dialogue in here, not my favorite, but a line that really needs to be said now is, says, I have it written down here somewhere. I have too many notes. It's the problem.
It's not computer banks which give total information, is it? Is that when he said we have computer banks that give total information?
Yeah, no.
It's a technical term. Do they give total information?
Mostly, yeah. Almost all the time. I love when Nigel Davenport, who plays like the head of I guess, Scotland Yard or something, the head of the British terrorist organization, to come to train the New York police in how to deal with this terrifying criminal.
Yeah.
And they find out that he's had plastic surgery. So Nigel Davenport has to deliver the line, well, if he's changed his face, he will be more dangerous than ever. How he knows that, I don't know.
Okay.
Big question for you.
And he also says he's only beginning.
He's only beginning, yeah.
He's only beginning.
How is this not a canon group film?
Yeah.
How did Menachem Golan not direct this movie? It's the most canon group movie I've ever seen, really. Why is there's so many questions. Why is Lindsay Wagner in it in 2 scenes?
Right. Menachem Golan, which I always like to say, if you can't Menachem, join him.
Don't join him for sure. You won't make it off the set alive. We both, speaking of which, we both had the pleasure of meeting Menachem Golan.
We had the pleasure not only of meeting Menachem Golan, but of spending a summer with Menachem Golan and an Israeli film crew in Berlin.
Which was a remarkable combination.
Before the wall came down. So Israelis with Germans behind the Iron Curtain.
This was like
summer of 78.
All right.
Just a couple of years after Munich. After the terrorist attacks at Munich in 76.
It was an exciting time for a couple of young lads to be stuck in Berlin.
Yeah.
Too young to go to the clubs. Couldn't do any of the fun stuff.
I went to the clubs a couple of times with Sheldon. I was 18. I was 18.
I never knew this.
Yeah, I was
You
18.
have to tell me the stories when we are done with the show, because I want to hear all about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a new regard for you. I have a newfound respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Das ist gut.
Can you answer me a question about this movie?
Sure.
Why is it important that it takes place the day before New Year's? They make a big point of having a card that says, December 30th or 30, was it 31?
Yeah, all over the place in this movie that are totally irrelevant.
Completely missed. They don't have any point. They don't have any
okay, well, New Year's Eve, something going on, like, Nakatomi Tower. Yeah, come to LA for Christmas. We'll have a ball. No.
Well, I think that
January 4th.
They had a lot of technical problems on this movie. There were huge issues.
Right.
Very embattled. A director got fired a week into production. The first director was fired, and the guy
direct.
I don't know. You're being very hostile towards a beloved film, and I'm trying to.
I'll back off. We'll get to my list later.
No, this brought me a lot of joy, but it's terrible, amazingly bad movie. But they cut a lot of things out. The studio got involved and they took the movie away, and so there's huge chunks missing. They shot more scenes with Lindsay Wagner, apparently, so at least her character has a reason to be there, other than be a reason for an apartment at the end, because that's the only reason she's in the movie now, is to give a reason for an apartment to appear in a film later.
And the thing that's sad is she's not a bad actor.
No, I didn't say she was bad. She's not. She's good.
I think the movie. No, but what I'm saying is, I think the movie would have improved with a little more of her presence.
Well, I'm gonna raise you one. Neither is Billy Dee Williams, and look what happened to him in this movie. Nobody gets out well in this film. Nobody gets out alive.
You would not believe that Billy Dee Williams is a good actor from watching this movie.
You wouldn't really know that Rutger Hauer was the amazing performer that he is either, but he probably gets some. He comes off
Soldier of Orange
and Spetters.
Yeah.
He was already a big star, though. He was already a huge star in Europe, and he kind of carried himself that way. I think you can see he has a lot of gravitas for his first American movie. He's Rutger Hauer. I do think I remember seeing this, and it was before Blade Runner came out, so I remember noting him. Huh?
Do you think he had the trailer already when they made this movie?
I don't think so.
You know about the trailer, right?
I saw the trailer.
Yeah, me too.
I saw the trailer. Another person in the movie that we actually hung out with. So Matthew and I were also spent another summer, as it happened, in Europe.
Behind the Iron Curtain.
Behind the Iron Curtain this time. Well,
kind of. It was before the wall came down. It was before communism fell.
No, when we knew Rutger.
Yeah, that was before 80, because the wall came down in 89, and Sobibor was around 87.
Oh, okay. Wow. You're up on your history. You went to school and did all those things. I just watched Nighthawks on Cinemax over and over again. and at this age, sit here try to defend it publicly, which is a terrible position to be in.
Do you remember our driver Branco in Belgrade?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think about I think about the people that we met over there a lot. Branco was great, and I mean, it's really intense to think about all the stuff that happened there after, because we were in Belgrade, and this was before all the troubles started there.
Yep.
And the city that we saw, God knows what it's like in that area now, how different it is,
Yeah. Do you remember what he used to say when we'd be driving and we'd see a restaurant and we'd ask, "Hey, is that place any good?" Do you remember what he'd say?
Yeah. For me, it's good. For you, maybe not so.
Not so well.
Bronco was great. That was a crazy movie, and Rutger Hauer was an amazing. What an amazing guy! Like,
yeah,
just an incredible force of nature.
Yeah.
He had the coolest trailer ever.
Yep.
18-wheeler.
And that's what he lived in. He didn't stay at the hotel. He lived in that, and he would make the studio pay for that.
Yeah, he parked it out in the woods, and he lived in. Yeah, he was a remarkable fellow. Scary man, huge, terrifying. Don't want to make him angry. Was very nice to him at all times. He was very nice to me, but I didn't want to test it. Didn't want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, look. We have to talk about this movie. We can't avoid it. I know you're trying to avoid it. You're trying to get out of it. We have to talk about it. This is a classic. It's in the canon of one of America's great stars.
Okay, keep going.
It's one of the biggest stars. We have to talk about Stallone. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie. He was coming off of Rocky II. There wasn't a bigger star at the time. And he chose to do this movie, so we have to respect it. We have to really respect it.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what is great about this movie. He did some stunt work around that helicopter that I was like, without the safety protocols that they have today, he was doing stuff like don't think Tom Cruise would have done.
You mean being raised on a cable carrying a fake baby?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was scarier than you're giving it credit for. Him dismounting off of the helicopter onto the pad when the helicopter won't even land, that's pretty good. Not shot particularly well, but he did it. That helicopter stunt pilot, amazing.
I'm not that impressed by hopping out of the helicopter onto the pad. The shot that got me, the only time in the whole movie where I stopped and I said, okay, that's a good shot, was the tram and the helicopter.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was just talking about. That stunt pilot was
Yeah.
amazing.
That helicopter holding perfectly still, looking at the
Yeah,
tram. That
Very-
impressed me.
that's very dangerous. They don't do that
Being
anymore.
raised up by a cable into the tram didn't impress me.
Okay, gotcha. Did his sunglasses impress you? Because I'd like you to drop a picture here. This movie stars sunglasses, actually.
Here we go.
There's a photograph. You can see there's actually, the movie is about a competition between a pair of aviator sunglasses. Rutger Hauer wins that battle, in my opinion. Rutger Hauer wins the aviator sunglasses competition.
Yeah.
Because he comes out with these glasses later in the movie. Like, Stallone has his glasses on, like, throughout, and you get kind of sick of it. You're like, I've seen these glasses before. And then Rutger Hauer comes out wearing those.
And then it's supposed to be somewhat symbolic. Like, there's shots of them doing and putting them on. Like, oh, now something's going to happen.
Well, you remember how important aviator sunglasses were back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I had a pair.
Right? So
Yeah. They didn't help.
did you have those Porsche ones that Rutger Hauer's wearing?
No, I had the Ray-Bans.
All right. Well, Rutger Hauer wins the award for best sunglasses. I found that interesting. I think that it's worth talking about I do think you're missing one of the interesting things about this movie, though, because, like,
Well, you don't know if I'm missing it or not. I've got a list. I've got pages here. I've got notes and notes of things to talk about. They're just not happy making things
okay,
necessarily.
okay. You in other words, you feel like you could have spent this time better making more Bisquick things in your pan. Squirting Bisquick into a pan and heating it up and making experiments with popsicle sticks was time better spent than this movie, and you're upset about it. I understand. I understand.
No, keep going. I want to hear the stuff.
I
want to say something in seriousness, though. I mean, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for you, because there was a movie. And I don't know if we talked about this on the show, and maybe we won't talk about it on the show because it might make me look really stupid. But there was a movie that is a classic movie that I watched, and I got in touch with you and I said, I don't get it. I thought it was a piece of crap.
Okay.
And you, in about a minute and 15 seconds, said a few things that completely opened my eyes and turned my head around and made me say, that movie's a classic and a stunner, and I want to watch it again.
I won't be able to do that with this film.
So, but I'm here to tell you I'm open to the possibility of that, in spite of the fact that I have, as a child would say, how many pages of notes do you have about how bad this movie is? I have this many.
This many pages. I think this actually brings up an interesting point, because there's different kind of movie lovers. There's different kinds of me act like this with glasses. yes, Peter, indeed. I think that I'm the kind of movie lover that you are food lover. It is well known, the people that know you,
well known
amongst your friends, that you are basically a human dump truck. That you will eat and love and talk about any food. It doesn't matter. You do know what good food is, and you eat good, like fancy food or good food, but you also have an enjoyment and appreciation for, like, the greasiest hot dog, chili con carne hot dog you can find, and you would love that and talk about it with a kind of passion that most people would only reserve for, a fine dining experience.
Well, can we have a little side bar about this since you've brought it up?
Yeah.
Because as people know, I'm about to drive across the country.
Yeah, this is true.
And what's going to happen is this. I'm eating my way across the United States.
See, I'm proving that my point.
Stopping.
You're not going to Michelin-starred restaurants,
No,
are you?
I'm going to Emma Jean's Holland Burger in Victorville.
Okay. Do you even know where the Michelin restaurants are in this where you're going?
I could find them on the
Don't
Google.
start. Anybody can do that. That's not a fancy thing.
Jack Stack in Overland Park, Kansas. El Parasol in Santa Fe. Joe and Aggie's Cafe for green chili in Holbrook, Arizona. Floyd and Company Real Pit Barbecue.
What do you have the highest hopes for here? What's your real?
I am. I've heard amazing things about Jack Stack's here. Did I share? Are we looking at this?
I'm looking at a map right now.
Oh, okay. So, can you see my cursor moving around on it in the
I
hand?
can see everything. Everything's very clear.
Okay. So I've been told that Jack Stack's here is spectacular. And
Okay.
White House Chicken in Barberton, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently they fry that chicken. Did I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to get back to us. There we are. Apparently, they fry the chicken in like lard or duck fat or so. It's supposed to be just insanely good.
Okay. Well, you see how excited you are right now. This is what I'm talking about.
So Nighthawks is your chicken fried in lard.
No, Nighthawks might be my like tempura Oreos. You know, like I don't know.
Fried pickles at the steak.
Like, I enjoy the concept entirely of watching people try to and fail to make a movie. We know how hard it is to make these films. And one of the reasons is I think, I'm going to be a lot harder. I'm going to be a lot harder on movies that should know better, or movies that have the money to know better. This didn't have a huge budget. They were scrambling. It was kind of a New York gritty experience, and they went for it. And I like seeing what, a bunch of just nutty people getting together to try to make a cop movie, what they end up with. It doesn't offend me that it's bad. I actually know the difference between like maybe a good movie like Serpico and this one, which is like what is happening. But it doesn't turn me off or make me like, what is this crap? Like I love it. I want to know about it. And I also love individual things in it so much that I actually do have affection for it. Like, yeah.
Okay, well, let's hear about those. Let's go through those. Well, do you want to go through the stuff that you love and that is good first? Or do you want to go through the stuff that I'm like, what the hell was that about?
Let's end on the bad news. So let's do the good stuff.
So I turn the microphone over to you.
Well, as an example, I sent you a clip that I thought represented a scene from the movie that if I just saw this scene, I might go, oh, okay, that's a regular movie. That doesn't look like, for instance, it's a movie that starts with Sylvester Stallone in a dress running down, a street in New York.
Now that's a movie I would see.
You don't think that's what you're going to get when you see this clip, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so you want me to play the clip that is labeled actually a good scene?
Yes, I think that's how I labeled it.
All right, here we go.
Kenneth, where were you since Friday?
They picked me up at the airport and they held me over the weekend.
The police?
No worry at all.
But you still came here.
Now, you know I would never tell them anything.
Move. You go to a better life.
All kinds of good stuff in that. All kinds of good filmmaking and all kinds of good stuff. Interesting to note. That was the fantastic Rutger Hauer, as we all know. Also, that was he was working with Robert Pugh. And Robert Pugh, who is the young IRA guy in the scene with him, who's sweating and interrogated and then gets shot. I edited a movie that he was in a few years back that my friend Peter Stray directed, a movie called Alien Party Crashers, which is the name of it here in the States. It's called Canaries in the UK. But Robert Pugh is a great Welsh actor who just happened to be in Nighthawks. And Peter and I watched Nighthawks together last night at the same time. We were texting each other and talking about the movie while it was going on. And so we have this history with Robert Pugh, and we love that he's in that movie. And I like that scene. I think that scene actually works. Like, if someone had just shown that to me, I wouldn't think it was from, a complete disaster of a film that just didn't work. And you're making a face at me right now, which says you have things that you disagree with, and I'm open to it. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that him shooting a submachine gun through a guitar at those guys coming up the steps isn't one of the coolest things that you've seen in a movie in a while, you haven't seen you've seen too many movies.
No, it was pretty cool. I liked shooting through the guitar. My question is, most dangerous man in the world, international terrorist. We have found out where he is. Let's send 3 guys to get him.
Yeah.
By going up the stairs to ostensibly knock on the door of the apartment where he's attending a party.
Okay, you are so literal, it's driving me crazy. But that part is very bad. But that's not. But in a weird way, like, I could make the case and argue that that's not the filmmaking part. That's the writing part.
Yes, this is true.
Bad. Yes, yeah. The script is really bad.
The script is
really bad. It makes no sense.
This is like saying, this would be an amazing human body if somebody had put a skeleton inside it.
No, it's like I'm going to disagree with you. It's like going to a show off Broadway.
Yeah,
with great acting in it, and some terrible writing, and some good directing, and some bad choreography, and going out afterwards and trying to figure out what was what.
I was in that show.
That's the reason I have an apartment, is that show. All right, Peter says he's known to audiences crasser in Game of Thrones and Russell Crowe's first mate in Master Commander. Thank you, Peter. Yes, that's true. We don't like fantasy movies here, so please keep your Game of Thrones out of this talk. You know better than that. Robert Pugh, amazing. That's Maple Dragon. That's Peter. That's Peter who directed the movie that Robert Pugh was in that I edited. And yeah. I feel like your distaste for this movie is coloring your attitude about me and everything.
I love you
anymore. I feel like you don't even like this show. Like, you're just, this has soured you on all of it. Maybe I hope I'm wrong. But,
keep going.
I think what's amazing is like that scene, which is maybe innocuous enough, but has some really good moves in it for movies, and like shooting through the guitar anytime. I legitimately thought Robert Pugh was sweating his way through that. Rutger Hauer's fine. And then they go to a scene. Well, can we show the scene where it says that Stallone stands up? I sent you something that says he stands
Stallone
up.
Stand.
Yeah.
There's a UN benefit at the Metropolitan Museum next week. Those people are already hostages. It's our responsibility to try and stop him.
Well, it's not my responsibility to be part of an accidental homicide.
Oh, for Christ's sake, De Silva! Will you get out of this cop on the beat mentality? Your wife left you for it. Wasn't that enough?
I think that sums it up. Those two scenes together in a movie, you're like, wait a minute, I thought this looked like a sensible movie. And then they cut to this scene and it doesn't make any sense.
For Christ's sake, De Silva!
Nigel Davenport in that scene is just, all he's doing is thinking about the minibar at the hotel back at, the Crown Plaza.
Yeah.
There's a scene. Sometimes something's so bad, I have a deep fondness for it. I can't hate it. It's just like it's so bad, but it's trying.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna lie back here for a second and let you tell me why maybe I'm mistaken and I could have spent my time better.
Okay. Well, I'll start with something that I actually liked. Aside from the helicopter hovering stock still by the tram.
Okay.
There was one other shot that I thought was very interesting. They actually, at one point, got a little bit of interesting subtext into the movie, because the emotional conflict for Stallone in taking on this job is that he says, you're training us to be assassins, and the only difference between him and us will be the badge. So there's sort of a hint that he's had enough of the killing.
Yeah, they make that fairly clear.
Yeah.
He was in Vietnam, right? And
he was in Vietnam. He had 56 kills, and he doesn't want to just kill people anymore. And there's the scene where he stops Billy Dee Williams from killing the guy at the beginning in the drug bust, when Billy Dee Williams is going to kill that guy because he's lost him, right? So then after he says that thing about you're training us to be assassins and the only difference between him and us will be the badge, there is a scene where Nigel Davenport is giving a lecture, one of his many incredible lectures on how to catch terrorists. And he's talking, and Wolfgar's face, because there's a slideshow, is projected onto him as he's talking.
It's in the beginning of that clip.
And so that subtext of no difference between the killer and the people who are trying to kill the killer was, I'm hoping that was a conscious choice on somebody's part rather than an accident.
Yes. Okay. I hear you. I noticed that too. And I really like that, but I'm going to go one more and say, I was actually pretty impressed by a lot of the cinematography in this movie, considering what I knew to be a very hard shoot to actually do. This is actually kind of interesting. Cinematographer, James A. Contner. Again, not somebody I knew until I looked him up, and then I realized I did know him. Oh, that's director. He became a director, which is actually interesting. Not a lot of DPs going to do a lot of directing, I guess. But Nighthawks was his third movie. Cruising with Al Pacino was his first movie as a cinematographer. So he was doing something right to get that job in the first place. Then he did Nighthawks as his third film. He did Jaws 3D, Where the Boys Are, The Flamingo Kid. He did a lot of episodes of Miami Vice, a lot of episodes of Crime Story, Monkey Shines. Went on to do a lot of really good-looking stuff. And there's a lot of really good cinematography in this movie, actually. I mean, technically is some pretty inventive stuff. I don't know if there's a lot of storytelling going on, but that shot was great. I loved that. Reminded me a lot of the If Chris File. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite spy movies, and that seemed to be a steal directly out of that. Okay. Yeah, that was great. That was a great thing in this movie.
So that was good. Can we talk a little bit about the bandage around Billy Dee Williams' head?
Yes, but we need to talk about other things around that, because there's one of my favorite things is surrounding that experience. So why does Billy Dee Williams have a bandage around his head? Do you remember?
His face slashed.
Right. Rutger Hauer slashes his face in the subway and after a chase sequence.
And later says, if you didn't have lightning fast reflexes or something, it would have been much worse.
How? What? Turning my face? What?
He didn't reflex anything.
Make any sense.
He got slashed in the face.
So, okay, there's bad dialogue, and then there's that. And that's not a bad movie. When it's that bad, it's not a bad movie anymore. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
But he gets slashed in the face, but in the same scene, tells his partner that he should have shot first, which is the only time that I've ever seen that in a movie. He doesn't go like, "You did the right thing, man." He literally turns to him and he goes, "To hell with you. You should have done. You should have shot the guy first."
What else? So nothing but antagonism through the whole movie between Nigel Davenport and Sylvester Stallone.
Until
all of a sudden Sylvester Stallone says to him, "You want to get some Chinese food later?"
Yes, out of nowhere.
I said, "Oh, Nigel Davenport is about to die."
You were wrong. Let's go to there's something from that sequence which I think you'll appreciate. There's a photo I clipped called "The Walkie Talkies."
Oh my God, I had that written down too. Like, where these are like
the biggest walkie-talkies I've ever seen.
Walkie-talkies from the Flintstones.
It was like the Korean War surplus. Look at this.
If it had been a week earlier, it would have been the walkie-talkies that from World War II that they have to wind up before they make the call.
I was amazed. And that's not the only ones. There's like 2 other giant walkie-talkies in that sequence. I just didn't have time to grab them all.
Yeah. Everybody's walking around surreptitiously with walkie-talkies the size of their heads.
It's pretty great. Trying to be undercover about it.
Yeah. He'll never know we're here. Like a caterer with a giant.
So, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you were on a roll.
Well, let me see. So the Chinese food later. The helicopter. The biggest walkie-talkies I've ever seen. Something that got dropped. You're talking about scenes that got cut. Clearly, a scene that got cut because in the dialogue between Sylvester Stallone and Lindsay Wagner when he goes to her job, there's this whole big thing about, well, let's have dinner. Do you want to go have dinner? And she says, "I'll make reservations." And he says, "No, I'll make the reservations." Right? So the only reason to have a discussion about who's going to make the reservations is if it's a plot point that he's made the reservations, and because he made the reservations in his name, now I'm waiting for the moment where the killer finds out that he's going to have dinner with his girlfriend at this restaurant because the reservations are in his name.
Yeah.
And it never happens.
No.
So why do we have a scene where there's a whole discussion about a restaurant and reservations?
Yeah. Well, it was cut out. They shot it. I'm sure they did. And the reservations were probably talked about because there was he was trying to show her that he had class and could call a good restaurant. I bet you that was what it was.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I know they cut stuff out about her. There were scenes that she did not accept this movie based on these two scenes of just like, yes, I'll see you at the restaurant. That never happens.
Right.
Lindsay Wagner was a pretty big star when she made this movie. She wasn't just going to do those two scenes.
It's a nightmare for her, this movie.
Yeah, it's awful because there's no closure. There's no reason to be there. They don't even have a relationship that you see.
No.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Although this movie at another like half hour, 40 minutes would be pretty rough. I don't know if you'd need more of this movie.
Yeah.
It works at the length it is.
A couple of other little things. I want my eyes to be made blue with contact lenses, and the plastic surgeon moves in and does this whole thing of like looking at his eyes and raising up. Like, you don't have to do that to know whether or not you can make somebody's eyes like. Do contact lenses make your eyes blue or don't they? You don't need to.
Are you an ophthalmologist?
Okay. Oh, we're going there.
Your Honor, I rest my case. Okay. This man is not a doctor.
Okay. I've played a lot of doctor, and then one thing which is just an observation of something interesting. I'm a stewardess, and that was interesting because you don't say that anymore. There are no stewardesses anymore.
No, that's true. That's been not for a long time. That's
true.
So
that was fine at the time, but it was interesting. But then, there's somebody in this movie who we have not talked about at all.
I know who you're going to say, and I'm going to say one thing. It's nice to see her with a head of hair.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Persis Kambata. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. But
Persis Kambata, whose big claim to fame was playing the member of the crew of the Enterprise in the first Star Trek movie when they finally came back, the one who gets taken over and becomes the liaison for V'ger.
I thought she became V'ger, but she's basically
she gets taken over by V'ger and speaks for V'ger.
A movie I actually like a lot. It's people, Star Trek fans don't like that movie for some reason, but I've always been a big.
They're back.
Yeah.
There is Stephen Collins in it, which changes things now a little bit. But then her career, she went on to do, after this, just a stellar trajectory to her career.
Yeah, what was she up to?
So Nighthawks was 1981, which catapulted her into Megaforce in 1982.
Another classic.
Which led to Warrior of the Lost World in 1983.
The hits keep coming.
And then in 1980, I think she was tired from battling in the Lost World, took a 5-year hiatus, I think.
Okay.
Then, or I don't know if she took a hiatus, but her next big hit was She-Wolves of the Wasteland in 1988.
I didn't see that one.
And sadly, she passed away quite young.
I didn't know that.
Of a heart attack.
I'm looking at her creds right now, and I'm surprised because I always assumed that she had a career in another country. I assumed that she was a star elsewhere. And I'm surprised to see that she didn't do that many movies. Interesting.
I looked online for information about this. I remember hearing that there was a nose candy problem, but I don't know whether or not that's true.
Well, I don't
And
know.
The only reason I'm talking about it is because you actually can't defame the dead.
Okay. Well,
if he was alive, I'd keep my big fat yap shut for fear of getting
just
sued.
because we should change the subject, because that's really terrifying and awful that we'd be talking about this lovely person that way. But Bowles says, hey, that's the thing I wanted to say, the restaurant.
Yeah, she wanted to know about the restaurant.
About which restaurant? I'm sorry.
The reservations when
Yeah.
Disappeared.
I really think that had something to do with him trying to look like he could be a cool guy and pick a good restaurant for her because she was a fancy lady.
Right. And then we're in a disco, and it's 1981.
Okay.
And what music is playing?
Just some hot tunes, man. There's some great tunes.
And Brown Sugar is playing.
Well, they had the rights to that. They're going to do it.
Yeah, but there isn't a disco song in this movie.
No. In fact, it's got one of the craziest scores ever. The music in this movie is insane.
Keith Emerson.
You know, I mean, it took a lot of courage to do a full acid jazz score. I'll admit it wasn't a popular form, and they went for it. And any movie that gives the helicopter its own song, I'm 100% for that. Did you notice that when the helicopter showed up, it had its own song started, and guy went crazy. The music went completely crazy because it was like he was excited there was a helicopter in this movie. The score is really unhinged. It's very strange. At the end, at the home
Emerson of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Well,
right?
Case closed. We figured that one out. Now we know why it's completely unhinged. Bongos at the end home invasion? Don't understand. Choices, man. Don't understand the choices. I would do you have any other positive things to say?
One other question. Most dangerous terrorist in the world.
Yes.
Brilliant guy.
Yeah.
He leaves the map behind for them to find.
Okay. So everybody makes a mistake. The amazing thing that he does in this movie, though, the real amazing thing the character pulls off that I don't know why isn't more discussed is how the hell he has a case of guns the size of a coffee table hiding in that stewardess's apartment for like a week, and I don't know how she hasn't stumbled upon it, but way before she does. It's literally like a 4-foot long case.
Yeah.
Leading up to my favorite prop. Do you have a favorite prop in the movie?
Well, but another thing about that case is we literally find out about that case immediately after we're told by Nigel Davenport that he's completely cut off. He has no contacts and no access to anything.
Case of guns.
Except a bodega in Washington Heights where somehow he gets a case of guns and hand grenades.
Well, it's a good
Do
bodega.
you have more props you want to go over?
I just think that the best prop goes to, I have a picture, I send it to you, but I always like to find the best prop in the movie. And,
props to the props. Here we go.
It's a briefcase full of hand grenades. I found that just delightful. I love that. That he would go through, those specifications to make a briefcase of hand grenades. I love that. There's some good set dressing in this movie as well. I didn't take a picture of it, but I thought the phone placement in her apartment on the box that looks like a Dybbuk box with a candlestick on it was the worst set dressing I'd ever seen. I didn't know what happened there at all. Truly, moment after moment, that isn't it like at the end of the movie they just decided to stop, like they got tired and they were just like the last scene, it seems like they're like, okay, just get shot and all right, we'll go through the door, kind of. We'll come around the side, and then it'll be as if. Don't worry about it.
Shot in the kitchen, which is about 20 yards away from the front door of the apartment, of the brownstone.
Yeah.
And that's going to propel you 20 yards down the hallway and through the front door.
It's going to be an interpretive dance down the wall as he's shot and bleeding and spin down towards the back of the house.
Yeah.
Which oddly is very similar to his death in Blade Runner in a way. Like he has a lot of moves in Blade Runner like that, which I was convinced that they had seen and said, try to redo it, but he did Blade Runner after this.
Did you, spoiler alert, if you haven't.
It's all done.
Yeah. Did you know at the end that it was not Lindsay Wagner, that it was him in a dress?
I had seen it before, and I don't remember. I probably was surprised as hell the first time I saw it. I guess I was. I think I would be surprised because I wouldn't even think that the movie would be that dumb. Like I wouldn't think. Even by that point, I was giving it enough credit not to do that. This brings up something I do find interesting about the movie, though, and why I think it would be, for instance, a movie that you would actually teach this film in college.
Okay, so I'm going to use this movie this semester. I'll make my students watch it, and I'll make them watch this episode of our show.
I don't think that
your grade is going to depend on. They're going to have an exam on this discussion.
I've already told my students that they should see it, so I need to make a case why this is good, and we have to fight this out to the death.
Okay.
I'm not standing behind this movie. I'm totally joking. It's just a terrible movie. I just love it. That's the only difference between us.
I get it.
I think it's awful, but I could see it again tomorrow. I really could. Yes, Bet Bull says, Lindsay Wagner said, your favorite Italian restaurant. She didn't even know its name. Kind of lazy writing. Yes, Bet, there's some lazy writing in this movie. Very predictable ending. Hardly an ending. I just was amazed that they thought that would do for an ending.
Yeah. You just said something, though, really interesting that gave me an idea. You were talking about making your students watch this movie. I think we should have some sort of like face-off between my film students and your film students.
Well, they're gonna make a great Grindhouse movie in my class. I know they'll do something exciting with this. They'll be able to make something out of this experience for sure. I'm trying to look at my notes down here, and I don't have anything other than a lot of love for this movie. I have nothing great to say about it. I have things that I love that I can't even explain how much I love. I love Rutger Hauer in a three-piece suit drinking champagne by himself at a disco. I found that to be just amazing and funny.
Yes.
You know, there are shots where the fact that the whole thing hinges on a tram to Roosevelt Island is hysterical. It's really hysterical. I mean, it's deeply funny. And and every time they cut to Billy Dee Williams with Joe Spinell and all the cops in the tower that controls Roosevelt Island, like the radio tower or whatever, and they're just these big wide shots of them all just standing there uncomfortably, like they didn't like quite know what to do. And I just think there's so much awkwardness in this movie. It's hard not to kind of love it. Here's what you could teach in this. This is what makes this movie really weird, though. Like weirder than the typical Hollywood movie that they might be making at this time. And by weird, I mean like you're not unexpected.
Yeah.
For a cop movie, there's a really interesting. I'm not going to say it's well handled, but an interesting homoeroticism to it, and issue about male issues of femininity and masculinity. That I think it's interesting that in 1981 they were going to go there. It makes more sense when you realize that Cruising had already come out, which was not a very beloved movie, but a movie that at the time was dealing with the underground gay club scene in New York and cops undercover there, right?
Right.
Some of the first movies that we're talking about, well, that was one of the first movies that was maybe a Hollywood movie openly talking about the gay subculture. I don't think it did it well, but it was groundbreaking in that way. This movie was using weird like visual metaphors and stuff about it. The fact that we first see Stallone dressed as a woman in the movie. I mean, it's funny and everything. It's like a crazy cult thing in the movie, but it's also interesting that they wrote that the first time you see the character, he's dressed as a woman. And his secret weapon is his ability to inhabit the mind of a woman or the body of a woman, because at the end, he foils the criminal by dressing like a woman again, which is not great screenwriting, but it's very interesting that they were trying to use some ideas like that. And I backed it up by the scene at the disco. It's awful police work. It's the worst undercover police work you've ever seen, but there's something else going on. There's this really beautifully shot, very, very complicated scene to actually shoot of them slowing into slow motion as he comes across the floor when Stallone sees Rutger Hauer across the dance floor. And there's this kind of, sexy romantic disco vibe and music playing and flashing lights and everything kind of coalesces. And the two of them end up in this staring match in these long lenses, all this compressed background with beautiful lights and disco lights around them, and everything slows down and they kind of gaze at each other. And that's the moment where I was like, they're trying to do things with subtext here. They're trying to talk about these characters in a different way. It was unique for, I think, a cop movie that otherwise is about uber masculinity, to, without making a joke out of any of that, sexualize their first meeting that way. Like it's this romantic interlude with them, and have this thread of Stallone busting criminals by dressing as a woman. It's very interesting. And it reminds me of like classic giallo movies, like very Italian thing to do, like in Argento movies. Okay. So that part of it, I'm going to argue, is actually really interesting about the movie. Just maybe not, handled with great aplomb, but makes the movie worth it and makes it something worth talking about as a thing of its time. More than, for instance, I don't know, like Hard to Kill or something that was like, just your basic cop movie. They were striving to do something interesting and weird, and I don't think they got as weird as they wanted to, but I give them credit for that. I know that's not as good a case as I made for the other movie, but I tried my best.
Yeah. Shout out to Lou Giacomo in the casting.
Oh, Lou Giacomo did the casting. I didn't know.
Sid Corman did the casting, and Lou Giacomo did additional casting.
Okay.
It must have been early in his career.
A lot of amazing New York faces in this movie. Joe Spinell. I mean, come on. Joe Spinell's in, you got to be excited about that.
Yeah. From Rocky.
And Godfather.
And from Godfather, shooting in the shooting in the revolving door.
Yep. And in the classic New York grindhouse horror movie Maniac.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah.
There was one other shot in it that I loved, which is at the very end when he's coming up to, when Rutger Hauer's coming up the stairs to the brownstone. There's a shot through the front door with the glass windows, and they've lit him from behind so that we see him, and his shadow is enormous. Remember that?
I don't actually, but
so there's like him and the danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this immense shadow of him coming up the stairs.
That's going to be my viewing tomorrow because I'm seeing it again tomorrow. I have to see it again. I would watch this movie again tomorrow.
You would?
I would. I literally would. I mean, I'm not. It's really. I really do love a chili dog as much as I love a filet mignon.
Okay. All right.
You're saying this isn't even a chili dog. What you're saying is this is garbage.
I like chili dogs too.
This is garbage, and you wouldn't eat it if it was food.
This wasn't a chili dog to me.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to think, what do I consider a chili dog?
That's a good question. What is a chili dog movie?
What's a chili dog for me? Well, I can go to television for chili dogs. Like I can think of some movies like there's this Nathan Fillion was on a series called Castle.
Yes.
Which was pretty well written. It was a huge hit for a long time. And now he's on this new series called The Rookie, which is really formulaic network television cop show.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I love it. I mean, because it's just candy to me. Nothing, it's not deep. You're not going to be assessing it on its artistic. Magnum.
I'll give you that Magnum's a chili dog. Magnum PI
Magnum's a chili dog, and I love it. I love and The Rookie is like Magnum now. It's really good.
But see, I gotta argue with you on this though, because okay, Magnum PI wasn't a chili dog. Magnum PI is like it's like a blue plate special.
Okay, all right.
Because a chili dog is Simon and Simon. Let's face it, a chili dog is Simon and Simon or the A-Team. Because Magnum was a great show, man.
It was a great show.
Magnum PI had a mythology. It had a lot of character depth. There's a lot of people that could make fun of that, but the fans of that show know it was actually a really, really deep show in its own way. So I get what you mean, but I get what you mean. But I think what you're saying is that in order for you to enjoy the experience of watching it, it has to meet a certain level of technical proficiency and intelligence for you to feel like you're going to get something out of the experience. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of your time.
Well, I feel like there's got to be at least a nod to like this felt to me like they didn't even do the most basic attempt to learn to even make Rutger Hauer a dangerous international. Like there's so many
bad screenwriting. Absolutely.
I think actually when we get down to it, it's the script more than anything that
really does seem to bother you. When that's not tight, you get very upset.
Because if the script was better, then I might be able to enjoy all of the bad cheesy crap that Sylvester Stallone was doing and everything else.
Okay, I think there's okay.
And that may be my character flaw, that it's really hard for me to get over somebody when I feel like I can accept an actor not being up for a role or trying something that doesn't work. But when I feel like the writer didn't even, I mean, this was obviously before Google, but this is like somebody who it's like he didn't even freaking read The Day of the Jackal before making this movie.
I get you. Yeah, no, he did. The script is ghastly, but I think one of the differences is maybe in how we're able to maybe separate how we watch movies, because this is an interesting conversation because everybody kind of watches stuff in a different way, and we have our own ways that we watch it, and we turn on by different kinds of movies. We actually do have a very different set of movies that we love dearly.
Yeah, very different.
And for me, I don't. If there's something really cool about the way somebody's shooting something, that's enough for me. I don't need. If the script is bad, okay, I'll find something else to enjoy about thinking about, like the costuming. Stallone's costumes in this movie. I mean, I can actually get pleasure out of seeing the work that went into that insanity. I think about the fact that DP, that crew had to get up just as early as people shooting a good script, right? These poor guys had to get up, and make that movie, but they still got up every day, and every day they got together to figure out how to shoot this scene. And in that, this film has a lot of really fun, kinetic movie production technique and stuff going on in it, in that kind of handmade grindhouse way. So I can really table a bad script. I mean, I of course want to see a great movie with a great script, but when it's not happening, I really do find that I can get just as much pleasure out of watching it for, design elements or thinking about how they were able to actually get those helicopter shots back in 1981, where it's the timing, like the fact that they did that over Roosevelt Island at all, like there were no, you think about the safety protocols that they have now, that like this stuff would never happen.
Right.
So I also like the time capsule part of it, that it represents looking at a way that movies were made that just doesn't happen anymore. That is really cool. And I love watching stuff. I can get excited about just watching stuff from that level too. So I just think that's interesting. How how different people approach, particularly.
I still respect you.
This. Okay.
No, I do. I mean, that you actually put your finger on something really, really smart. Is that does get in the way for me, and it can blind me to almost anything else.
Right.
And I don't think that's as a result of me teaching that. I think it's the other way around. I think I teach that. I think I've ended up teaching that, and that's why they gave me this job, is because that is so much what I see and what I focus on.
Oh yeah, you have a tremendous ability to see that very quickly and parse that and understand the themes of a movie and the writing of it and the construction of it from that point.
But that's why I love talking about movies with you, is because of that, I so often won't see other stuff that might be extraordinary.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think like that's our cat. He's fine. If anybody's hearing that, he likes to sing. Honestly, it's scary when it happens in the middle of the night. But thank you, buddy. That was good. Nice job. Yes.
Well, we're not quite wrapping up yet, because I want to share something with you and the audience.
Well, why don't you? What is it? Get me out of this hole, because I have nothing.
It's the present that's on its way to you.
Oh yeah, you said something about a present. I'm like, where's this present? I've heard everything. I've heard about this
present that's on its way to you, which after our last show, which was about Silverado.
Yeah.
I went online and designed a present for you, and it's on its way. But I'm going to show it to you.
I can't wait to see what this is, man.
The audience.
I don't have a clue what this is.
It's a poster for you.
Oh, you didn't. Wow. Wait a minute. Ah, that's great.
So it's things that are in Silverado and things that are
not in Silverado. I love that.
Yeah. Someone yells stampede, and there is a stampede.
I love it.
And it's big. It's full poster size. It's a big poster.
Backdrop for the show.
No bad Indians, no Indians at all. Yeah. No galvanized bathtub scene. What other ones do I think are funny? Dumb wagon train people.
Yep. I'm glad you like that list. I was proud of it, and this is fantastic. I was very proud of this list.
It's a phenomenal list.
I love this.
Close up of a guy spitting, a plucky homesteading wife.
It's got almost everything in it, that movie.
Yep. And then I added something because we had talked about it, but we didn't have a thing to call it. So I called it a hoot and holler shoot 'em up.
That would be the name.
That's what I called it.
And you got to fall through the balcony through railing on there.
Yeah.
Good.
Added that. No sad waving child.
Oh, this is great. Thank you so much. I can't wait to. This is great, man.
That's on its way to you.
I will have to mount this behind me when next time we do the show.
I'm gonna if I ever get my own office at Chapman University, I'm ordering a print of that for the office.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you, man. I can't wait to get that. That's great. That's great. So we don't have a movie for we haven't picked one for next week yet.
We haven't picked one for next week. And there's one that keeps turning around in my mind.
Dependent on the guest.
That I haven't seen it. I haven't seen. I don't know if it's one that's of interest to you. Light Sleeper.
You know, it's not even. I know that title, but I don't. I would totally see it because I can't even picture what that movie is right now.
Willem Dafoe and Dana Delaney, I think.
Oh, and you know Dana Delaney.
I do.
Amelia worked with her as well.
I got to work with her for 3 months on Dinner with Friends, and then I've worked with her a couple of times since.
Oh, are you kidding me? I would totally see this. I've never seen this movie, and it's a Paul Schrader movie, and I've
never seen it either.
Great. I'm totally into that. Fantastic. Do you think there'd be any shot that she might come on the show?
I'll reach out to her.
I mean, I don't mean to call you out or anything, but if you're mentioning like you're friends with Dana Delaney and we're going to see her movie, maybe she want to talk to us.
I'll reach out to her and see if she wants to.
Maybe it couldn't hurt. Worst that can happen is would she say no? Here's a restraining order. Don't talk to me anymore. You're under arrest. That's the worst.
We went to the same college.
As I said, she might not want to see you. She might not want to see you anymore.
We weren't there at the same time.
There may be a good reason why you're not hanging out a lot. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but it'd be great if she was on the show.
She's America's sweetheart. What are you talking about?
I think you don't have to convince me to see Light Sleeper. That's actually something that I should see anyway because I've never seen it.
So ladies and gentlemen, next week, Light Sleeper.
Paul Schrader's film from 1992.
Yeah. Please, if you're watching Well, the people who are watching have probably already subscribed, but if you're not watching it live and you're watching the replay, please subscribe to this channel. And because Tony and I are always going to be talking about movies, and our brother Adam is going to be joining us. And who knows who's going to be on as a guest? We
got guests coming up. I mean, we got cool people coming up.
Yeah, I think we're talking to Ari Gross about being on when we do Coupe de Ville. We're going to talk to
Well, we want to do The Paper, and my wife is in that movie. Has some great stories about that. I know she'd love to talk to us about it.
Can you get her for the show?
I can contact her. I can't.
You can't guarantee that she'll be on.
Can't guarantee she'll be on.
You know, you can talk to her people.
She hasn't said what she thinks about this show yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
She won't. She hasn't talked to me since I've started.
Okay, right. Yeah, but there's some fun people. That we've got, but I'll get in touch with Dana and we'll see if she'll. And if she won't, I'm going to come up with some lie about why she's not on the show next week. You know, I'm going to say, "Oh, she's in Bolivia."
So say something embarrassing. Just say something. You'll basically blackmail her and say that.
No, she's a lovely lady.
Okay, don't do that. Don't blackmail the lovely lady. Don't do that. Well, great. This has been a long show. I mean, I know we're talking. I could talk for another 3 hours about this movie, but we're not going to do that.
Please don't.
Matthew doesn't want me to talk anymore about this movie, so he calls the shots.
So we're going to sign off. Subscribe to the show. Make sure that you click the bell icon when you do, so you get notifications of the other upcoming live streams. I do not have a guest for this coming Monday on tips and techniques for actors, authors, and storytellers because I am driving cross country to ride out the rest of the pandemic with my mom in New York.
You might maybe you'll meet an interesting screenwriter along your travels.
On the road.
You never know.
I could. So thanks, buddy. This was great, and I'll see you next week for Light Sleeper. Yeah.
With or without Dana Delaney, we're going to do this.
With or without Dana Delaney, it is Light Sleeper next week. So thanks a lot, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Thanks.